Today we'll learn about oxidation and reduction reaction. Now look up at this first reaction. Here magnesium adds on to hydrogen. So magnesium adds on to hydrogen to give you magnesium oxide. So in this case there is an addition of oxygen. Look at the second case too. Sodium adds on to oxygen to give you sodium oxide. So here too oxygen adds on to sodium. So here too there is an addition of oxygen. Look at the next case. There's carbon combining with oxygen to give you carbon dioxide. So here too oxygen adds up to carbon to give you carbon dioxide. Adds on to carbon to give you carbon dioxide. So these are addition of oxygen. All these above reaction where oxygen adds on are called oxidation reactions. So oxidation reactions are reactions when oxygen is added on. So oxidation is addition of oxygen. So we can say that magnesium has got oxidized because it has added on to oxygen. We can say sodium has got oxidized, and here we can say carbon has got oxidized. So we can say magnesium, sodium, carbon have got oxidized. Why do we say have got oxidized or are oxidized? Because oxygen has added on to them. Let's go to the other set of reaction. Here we have copper oxide, and what is happening to copper oxide? There is a loss of oxygen. It is losing oxygen. Same, we go to lead oxide. Here lead oxide is also losing, or there is a loss of oxygen. There were two oxygens here and now there is only one. So there is a loss of oxygen. Look at zinc oxide. Zinc oxide also there is a loss of oxygen. The zinc oxide loses oxygen to give you zinc. So all these compounds are said to undergo reduction. So what is reduction? Reduction is the loss of oxygen. So we can say copper oxide here in the first case, then we have lead oxide in the second case, and lead oxide in the second case. Have you seen there were two oxygens became only one, and zinc oxide they have got reduced. Why have they got reduced? Because they have lost oxygen. So I repeat again. A substance that gains oxygen is said to have been oxidized, and a substance that loses oxygen is said to be reduced. So in general, suppose I have AO and then it becomes A plus O. That means A is reduced. Why reduced? It has lost oxygen. And suppose I have B and it adds up to oxygen to give you BO. I would say B has oxidized. Oxidized means oxygen has added on to it. Now let's observe this first reaction. In this first reaction, there is no give and take of oxygen. There is no oxygen. But what is happening to chlorine? Chlorine is adding on to hydrogen. So chlorine is adding on to hydrogen. So there's an addition of hydrogen taking place here. Addition of hydrogen. Here this compound is a new compound that you learn, and you learn it more in detail. It's called ethene. And this ethene here is adding on to hydrogen. So here also ethene is adding on to hydrogen to give you ethane. The number of hydrogen increases. Here also there is a addition of hydrogen. Now addition of hydrogen is also called a reduction. Addition of hydrogen is called reduction. So in this case we can say chlorine and ethene are getting reduced. So what do you mean by reduced? Hydrogen is adding on to them. Now if you look up in the next, in this reaction here, H2S plus chlorine, what is happening to chlorine? What is happening to H2S? H2S is losing, see, H2S becomes S, and in the process there is a loss of hydrogen. So here there is a loss of hydrogen. In the next case again we see HCl also loses, there is a loss of hydrogen. Here too HCl loses, loss of hydrogen, and this loss of hydrogen is called oxidation. So let's summarize again. We learned that if a substance, say we have A, it adds up to hydrogen and we get AH, this will be called a reduction. Why reduction? It's because hydrogen is added, addition of hydrogen. But suppose we have a compound, say BH, and the BH becomes B plus hydrogen. Now in this case the BH loses hydrogen, and because it loses hydrogen we say it has undergone oxidation. So oxidation could have now two meanings, two definitions. Oxidation, when do we say a substance is oxidized? If there is addition of oxygen or there is removal of hydrogen. And when it comes to reduction, reduction too has got two definitions. It could be reduced means addition of hydrogen or removal of oxygen. So we need to keep this in mind as we proceed with more examples. Now look at this equation. Copper oxide reacts with hydrogen to give you copper plus water. What does copper oxide? Copper oxide turns into copper, and when you see when copper oxide is turning into copper, there is a loss. Let's observe what is happening. Loss of oxygen. And in the next case, hydrogen is becoming into water. H2 becomes H2O. There is a gain of hydrogen. If you look back in our definition, a loss of oxygen is reduction. I have written oxidation, it's wrong. Loss of oxygen is reduction. So I can say here copper oxide undergoes reduction because it has lost oxygen, whereas if you look at hydrogen, hydrogen gains oxygen to give you hydrogen oxide, that is water. So hydrogen undergoes oxidation because it gains oxygen. For the next one we have iron oxide, Fe2O3 plus aluminium to give you aluminium plus, it's aluminium oxide plus iron. So look at this reaction carefully here. Fe plus aluminium to give you Fe plus aluminium oxide. So Fe2O3 changes to Fe. Observe what is happening. Fe2O3 becomes Fe. So there is a loss of oxygen. And when it comes to aluminium, now changes to Al2O3. There is a gain of oxygen. And by our definition, loss of oxygen is reduction and gain of oxygen we know is oxidation. So here we can say that Fe2O3 undergoes reduction, whereas aluminium undergoes oxidation. Look for more examples that I have given later.